So my store manager grabs him by the neck, turns him around, says, let's have a little talk. Pushes him to make it look like he's running from us, and then tackles him. And I'm going, so I started working at 17 years old as a bag boy at a company, Bruno's. This is a really big company in the South with like grocery store chains. They own places like Food World and other brands within the company. And I was 17 years old as a bag boy. And before I turned 19, I was a number 2 manager in the company. And I was making really good money for that, point in my life. And I felt like that was my path forward. I'm like, I guess I'm just going to be here. But I moved up so quickly. So I had my own. I started as a bag boy, and I was like, I want to go work in every department in the store just because I don't want to be on the front end, just standing here all day. I want to be moving. And I learned the system, did really well. And then I was there until just a bunch of like corporate stuff years later was happening. Different company comes in, different ownership, different leadership, whatever. And so I stopped doing that. So I started after the company shut down and the stores closed. I kind of bounced around to a bunch of different jobs.
Well, hold on. Okay. I can't imagine you being a grocery store manager and having to deal with like stay-at-home moms and all the bullshit and that comes along with dealing with all the, what's the price on this? And what about my double and triple coupons? I can't even imagine you dealing with that shit.
Yeah. Back in and this is like back in the 90s into the 2000s. So like it was a different world back then. I mean, obviously I take my job seriously. If I'm at a job, I'm getting paid good money for it. And I feel that if I have control over my own destiny. And I felt like once I was a high ranking manager in a store, I felt incorrectly, by the way, but I felt that I had a certain level of control. So I felt like it was my store. So I felt that I took pride in that, so when a customer was unhappy, I wanted to get that corrected. It's almost like right now with the internet. Like if I get people complain to me about things at G&G, if you're complaining to me about genuine things that I feel like I want to correct, I'll handle that in a respectful way. You know what I mean? And so I think that learning that through the process of like being in the store and going, this is my store. It represents me. I'm in charge. I want it to run properly. So yeah, if you have some annoying idiot who picks up a can of soup and they think it's a cheaper price because they don't know how to read, that's just part of the motions you go through. You know what I mean? And so it helped me. It helped me because I felt like I had a certain level of power. Now, hindsight tells me I had no power at all. I was simply just a high paid employee that had no real power. And I learned that over the course of time. So like, for instance, if there was this certain product in the store that sold very well, I would go, well, hey, I would like to build a display of this product right here. But corporate would tell me, well, you can't build a display of that because we have a contract with this other company. And it's like, well, yeah, but that product doesn't sell well. This one does. And in order for my numbers to get better, I need to put the product that my customers want. And they're like, yeah, well, you can't do it. Well, then it's not
all
my
the red tape and all that.
Yeah. So I started to learn how all that worked, and it frustrated me over the course of time. But years into it, I mean, I'm a 19, 20-year-old kid who was making really good money, driving a really cool sports car. Everybody at work knew me. I was the youngest manager by far, so that put a certain level of attention on it. So I felt that I was in a different place. So I handled things very respectfully when I dealt with complaints and things like that. It's just how, because I felt that I had, a certain level of power, even though I really didn't after the fact. But so I did that, and I was really good at what I did. I was really good at working in retail because I would bring a competitive nature to it, being a big sports fan, playing sports when I was growing up. When I was running the stock crew, for instance, the overnight stock crew, we had competitions as to like who could throw the most cases, who could get, and we would do competitions like that. We would get timers out there. And back then, though, like I said, when I was during the day, when we catch a shoplifter, we could beat the shit out of them.
Did you ever beat the hell out of him?
100%. So I had this store manager. I'm not going to say his name. I think he's still alive. I mean, again, this is 20, 30, this is like 20 years ago. Yes, 20 years ago. Cause I'm an old man. I know people don't think I'm old, but I'm an old man. But this is like 20 years ago. My store manager loved professional wrestling. I've told this story on streams before. So my store manager, he was like 6'7". He loved professional wrestling. Now, my first month there, I'm just on the front end, bag boy, got my shirt tail tucked in, got everything. I'm just there trying to impress, and I'm just doing my job, keeping my head down, doing my job. And my store manager was very intimidating, big guy. He ran the whole store, so he was kind of, he had an intimidating presence about him. And I'd never spoken with him. I was kind of intimidated by him at that point in time, so I never said anything. So I'm up front bagging one day. Again, first month on the job. I'm up front just bagging groceries. Hi, ma'am, paper or plastic, yada, yada, yada. Trying to put the cold stuff with the cold stuff. Trying to put, medicine with medicine, produce, whatever. And all of a sudden, I look over, and my store manager's got some guy in a chokehold and dragging him across the front end. And I'm just going, what the hell, Store manager takes him back into the office. And the guy's like, they've got him detained back there in the back. My store manager opens the office door back up to tell the lady in the little cubicle, like, hey, I need you to call the police. And the guy tries to run out, and he grabs him again and throws him back into the office. The door shuts behind him. And I'm going, what the fuck is happening right now? And I'm just shocked. Okay. So I'm watching all of it unfold. Police get called. Police come in. They deal with it. They bring him out in handcuffs. I'm just going about my day. And all of a sudden I hear, Jeremy Griggs, come to the office, please. Jeremy Griggs. And I'm going, what? It was almost like the Lord was calling me to the office, because I'm like, what? My name was just on the PA system. I go in there, and my store manager's sitting down. He goes, name's Jeremy, right? I was like, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He goes, do you see what just happened there? And I said, I saw a guy, I'm stumbling, I'm scared. I was like, I saw a guy, you put him in a chokehold, and then, he tried to run, and then it looked like you put him in a sleeper hold. He goes, sleeper hold? You watch wrestling? I said, yes, sir. I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. I watch WWF. And he says, I wanted to put that son of a bitch on a tombstone pile driver. And I'm going, what? And yeah, he was just like, goes crazy because I was a wrestling fan. And me and him, that's where we bonded, because we were wrestling fans. And then he would show me the ropes. And man, this guy, so his whole philosophy was, when we, now, just to be clear, we did profile people a lot. So when we saw a person walk in the store, we'd be like, that guy's going to steal. Now, this is back in the day when tobacco and all of that was out on the sales floor. It wasn't behind, the counter and lock. It was out on the sales floor. So the philosophy we would always have is, when we see someone walk in the store and we figured this person's probably going to steal, we would watch them. My store manager would always tell me, he says, if they pick up cigarettes, you stand here and you wait. And if they walk back around, because what they do is they'll pick up the cigarettes, and then they'll walk around the store, and then they'll come up front and they'll walk out the door because they put it in their pocket. He says, you watch the cigarette counter after they pick it up. If they come up front, you say, what did you do with cigarettes? Now, they're going to tell you they put them back on the shelf, but you have verified that they didn't come back to the shelf. So now their job is, they have to take you to where they set them down in the store. He said 90% of the time, they put them in their pocket. So that's how you get them. So I would, he would show me these things. And there was one time where this guy, he clearly stole cigarettes. He walks up front. My store manager stops him and goes, hey, what'd you do with cigarettes? He goes, man, I put them back on the shelf. And he goes, no, you didn't. We've been watching that shelf. So you need to show us where you set them down. And he goes, I ain't got them. And then my store manager says, looks, what's that in your pants? He goes, that's my dick. You want to grab it? So my store manager grabs him by the neck, turns him around, says, let's have a little talk. Pushes him to make it look like he's running from us, and then tackles him. And I'm going, now again, this is like the late 90s. Okay. I've seen so many crazy stories like that. There was one guy that choked me out because he was like huge. He's walking for the meat department, and meat department managers are like country boys. They got that country strength. You know what I mean? And they call me, they're like, hey, Jeremy, where you at? I said, I'm up front. They're like, there's a guy walking up front. He's got a military jacket. Just hold him up. We're on our way. He's got a bunch of steaks in his pants. And I'm like, okay. So like this guy's walking up, and I see him. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this man's huge. What am I going to do? So I like walk up to him and say, "Excuse me, sir." I'm in my shirt and tie, you know, looking super, super gay. And you know, I'm like, "Excuse me, sir." And he just grabs me by my throat like he's the Undertaker and just slowly walks me back to the back glass. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die." And the meat department guys come running like ninjas out of nowhere and grab him and hold him down. But I got so many stories about like shoplifting back in the day, but watching how the evolution of how it used to be, and clearly that is not clearly the best way, because giving
Right.
people free reign to do that is not, you know, there's a lot of danger with that. But we've gotten so far from crazy stuff like that to where you can't even, as an employee, you can't even ask someone if they stole something now. You can't
Right.
even ask them. You can't even accuse people of anything now because of lawsuits and all this other stuff. But back in the day, man, it was glorious. I loved it.
The overcorrection is real. We've seen that many,
Mhm.
many times, and now it's a matter of it balancing back. Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Would greatly appreciate that, so you can find more clips on the channel. And of course, come join us live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time for our live Side Scrollers podcast. We would love to see you there.